Hello, 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 hello. Hey guys, what's up, Sarvente? Sarvent? Hey, Bigfoot, how's it going? What's up, Streety McMeaty? Thanks for joining. Hey, Losh, glad you could join. What's up, Nikki? What's up, Dee Dee? Hey, Patrick, glad you're here. Hey, everyone. How are you guys doing? So I got my vaccine shot. That's what was that? On Monday? Yeah. So I got my vaccine shot on Monday, and now I'm all vaccinated. Wait, was it Monday? I think it was Monday. It might not be. Oh god, the days are all blending together. Yeah, yay! I'm fully vaccinated. All right, I can go out now. I actually went to a family get together like yesterday for Mother's Day. So, oh, that was the first time our family had a get together in like a year. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. Happy Mother's Day, you guys. What's up, Katie? Thanks for joining. Hey, King of Kings. What's up? How you doing? Hey, Lady Maya. Any side effects? No side effects, actually. Well, I did feel a little bit of I had a minor headache and like some muscle soreness for like a day. Yeah, it's yeah. And I felt a little bit hot. Like I thought it was like the weather. So I was like, why is it so hot today? But it turns out that was me. So I didn't get a fever, but I guess my body temperature got hotter. But that's it. Yeah, I didn't have any side effects other than that. So that was pretty cool. I don't know what that means. Does that mean it didn't work that well? I don't know. But yeah, memory loss. That's right. I've lost my memory. What's up, Willa? How's it going? Hey, Jennifer. Thanks for joining. Yaml. Is that how you say it? Yaml? Yaml? What's up? Oh, all right. For the reading, I have this today. It's chocolate banana cream covered chocolate biscuit sticks. So it's chocolate banana with cream flavor. Let's see how that tastes. Oh. It seems like it's gonna be good. Ugh. Alright. Alright, you. I'm struggling here. Struggling. Chocolate cream, eh? Let's see. Oop. Ooh. Ooh. Mmm. Very strong banana flavor. Very strong. Maybe too strong. I'm not actually a fan of bananas. It has a very strong banana flavor. That's all I can taste, actually. I don't taste any cream or anything. Hmm. Oh yeah. Oh my god. This package has like 100 sticks or something. It's huge. Alright, cheers. Hmm. Hmm. Give me a second. Do you guys like bananas? I never eat bananas. I eat other fruits. Apples, pears, grapes, whatever, but bananas, Doesn't do it for me. I don't know why. That flavor. Bum, bum, bum. All right. So let's see. So what happened last week? Okay. What happened in our story last week? Recap. So our hero, Ling Huchong, he met up with a bunch of people from the Orthodox sects, right? And they're going to rescue Ying Ying at the Shaolin Temple. And he comes over, and they're all debating and fighting over who was going to be the leader, right? But then Ling Huchong comes, and then naturally he becomes the leader. Okay, he's the leader of everyone, and then they start their march towards the Shaolin Temple to rescue Ying Ying. Um, so he so they're going, and then they pass by the foot of Mount Wudang, right? And there they see three people. At first, they seemed like just ordinary peasants, but turns out they were actually like high level fighters, right, of the Wudang sect, of the Wudang school. So, Ling Huchong, he gets to fight them, right? He fights two of them, and he beats them up, and he fights one guy. Yeah, he fights the third guy, and the third guy is like this old man, and he seemed frail, but he was actually super powerful. And they're fighting, and this old man had this like really good sword technique that he's using. Um, but in the end, Ling Huchong managed to beat him and just break his super powerful sword technique, right? So then the old man is like this pretty cool dude. And he offers to get himself and the abbot of the Shaolin Temple to go talk to his master to get him to be reinstated into the Huashan school, right? Remember, he was kicked out of the Huashan school, and all he wants is to get back into the school. But then the only condition was that he has to forget about Ying Ying. Okay, he can't go and rescue Ying Ying, and of course, being Ling Huchong, he refuses. Okay, so he refuses to go. He refuses his chance to get back into the school because he wants to save Ying Ying, and that's it. That's what happened last week. Not much, I think. Yeah. How's that? I don't like. I don't like long shaped. You don't like long shaped foods? I guess. What about sausages? Huh? You guys? Sausages are really good. I love sausages. Big, thick, meaty sausages. They're amazing. Every morning you eat a banana? Ew, that's nasty. Why would you do that? You want me to drop my skincare routine? I don't do much, actually. I think you probably have better skin than me. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, they are. Bananas are kind of ew when they're raw. Hmm. I haven't had a banana split in a while. Maybe that's better, but I don't know. I'd rather have the banana split without the banana. I'll just have a sundae. It did end with the Peach Valley Six Fairies being stubborn. You like hot dogs? You like hot dogs over sausages? No, why? What about those breakfast sausages? Like you eat like when you order a plate of eggs and sausages or bacon and whatever they have, whatever else comes with that. You don't like that sausage? The breakfast sausages? Those are hella good. They beat hot dogs any day. Oh, you only like bananas in smoothies. Okay. I don't like smoothies either. I really don't like smoothies. I don't know why people like that stuff. It's all like squished and nasty, and they're all like, I don't know. It's very weird. It's like, okay, smoothies are like food when you've eaten food and then it's all in your stomach. You know what I mean? It's food after you've chewed it, right? It's just smoothies are just food. Smoothies are just like food after you've chewed it. Is that not right? It's like you ate something, then you threw it up, and then now you're gonna drink it up again. Nasty. That's because I've never had good smoothies. I guess. What is a good smoothie? I've gone to Jamba Juice. I've had a bunch of their stuff. Didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. Yeah, they're fruit slime. Thank you, Patrick. That's a perfect explanation. Fruit slime. Uh, am I a picky eater? I guess. All right, let's do this. You make amazing smoothies. You would share the recipes. Well, you make amazing everything. Let me switch the screen. All right. Chapter 26, Besieging the Temple, Part 2. They kept on going north and had finally entered the boundary of Hunan. Unexpectedly, they met with two more groups of heroes coming from the east and the west. They already had more than 2,000 people with them before, but after adding those two extra groups to their main group, they now had more than 4,000 people with them. These 4,000 people just slept anywhere at night. It didn't matter whether it was on grass, forest, or wild hill, they just put their heads down and slept. But foods and drinks were a big problem. After many days at the restaurants and drink shops on the towns that they were going through, they broke all the pots, tables, and chairs because they didn't get enough to drink and eat. They were all angry and destroyed the restaurants. Yeah. Remember, this is like a group of rowdy people, right? They're not good on following rules and laws or anything. Ling Huchong saw that these Jianghu's heroes were quite violent, but they were also very loyal and frank people. If the Shaolin Temple didn't want to release Ying Ying, then both sides would get into a bloody battle, and the outcome would be unavoidably horrible. Every day he waited for news from Ding Xian and Ding Yi Shitai. He was hoping that due to the two Shitai's reputations, Abbot Fang Zheng would agree to release Ying Ying and avoid the catastrophe from happening. So yeah, remember Ding Xian and Ding Yi Shutai, they were both going to the temple to beg for the release of Ying Ying. Right. Only 3 days remained until the 15th of the 12th month, and they were now less than 100 li from the Shaolin Temple, but there was still no news from the two Shitai. The way they were going to Shaolin Temple with banners flying and drums beating, everyone must have heard of their advance. But so far, there was no movement from the other party at all, as if nothing was happening. Ling Huchong raised this issue with Zhu Qianchu and Ji Wushi, and they all felt worried about this. That night, the group stayed in an open field. Sentries were put on the outside of the group to prevent possible night raids from the enemy. The wind was blowing coldly, and the gray clouds hung low on the sky. It appeared that a big rain was about to pour down. The open field was filled with cooking fires in tens of li in every direction. Not restrained by any military command, the group of warriors acted more or less as a mob as they gathered together, singing and shouting loudly, shaking the ground. There were also people with swords and sabers out competing with each other, while some were wrestling. Everywhere it was noisy and filled with shouts. Ling Hucheng thought, "It's best if I don't let these people step on the grounds of the Shaolin Temple. Why don't I go first to ask the great master Fang Zheng and Fang Sheng if I can get Ying Ying out? Wouldn't it be a great celebration for everyone?" At this thought, his whole body felt hot. After he thought more on this, he changed his mind. But if I fight the Shaolin's monks just by myself, then I'll be captured or even killed. I'm not worried about dying, but there will be no one to preside over these people. Without a leader, there will be chaos in this group of heroes, and they wouldn't be able to get Ying Ying out. Moreover, many of these several thousands of courageous and upright friends would probably be killed on Mount Shaoshi. If I acted rashly and ruined this matter, how would I be able to apologize to all these people? He stood up and looked around him. Looking at the people besides the piles of fire, he thought, if they're not doing this for Ying Ying, they wouldn't have submitted to me at all. 2 days later, they arrived at Mount Shaoshi and were just outside of the Shaolin Temple. During these 2 days, even more warriors joined their group. The people he had met on that day on 5 Tyrant Ridges gathering including Huang Bo Liu, Sima Big, Blue Phoenix, as well as the White Flood Dragons clan leader Shi, and the Yangtze River's pair of flying fish had all come. There were still many heroes that Ling Hucheng didn't manage to see who had come as well. Conservatively, they had around 5,000 to 6,000 people now. Several hundred drums were beating, shaking the ground and trembling the sky. The group was beating the drums for a long time, but not a single monk came out of the temple. Ling Hucheng roared out his command, "Stop the drum!" The beating sounds gradually became lighter until they finally stopped. Ling Hucheng took a deep breath and in a clear voice said, "Junior Ling Hucheng and many friends from Jianghu have come to pay a visit to Shaolin's abbot. I ask respectfully to be granted a meeting." Ling Hucheng attached an abundance of internal energy into his voice, and he was heard from many li, but there was still no sound from inside the temple. Ling Hucheng spoke again, and yet there was still no response from the temple. Ling Hucheng said, "Brother Zhu, please offer your visit card." Yes, Zhu Qianchu complied as he carried the prepared visit box, which stored the card with Ling Hucheng's name and the names of leaders from various sects. He went up to the gate of the Shaolin Temple and knocked on it a few times. When there was still no sound coming from the temple, he lightly pushed on the gate. The gate wasn't bolted, and it opened easily. He looked inside and couldn't see anyone around. He didn't dare to go into the temple without authorization, so he turned around to report to Ling Hucheng. Although Ling Hucheng's martial art was high, he still didn't have much experience and had never led a large group of people before. With this unanticipated situation before him, he didn't know what to do. He was momentarily stupefied and speechless. Alright, so what's going on? It seems like the temple is empty. Seems like no one's there, and the door is not locked. It's gotta be a trap, right? Peachtree Root Fairy said, "All the monks in the temple have all escaped? Let's go inside. If we see any shiny head, we'll kill him straight away." Shiny head? "You said all the monks have all escaped. If so, where are you going to find some shiny heads to kill?" Root Fairy said, "Don't nuns also have shiny heads?" Flower Fairy said, "It's a monk's temple. How can there be nuns there?" Root Fairy quickly pointed his fingers at a person. This man here isn't a monk, and he's also not a nun, but he has a shiny head. Trunk Fairy asked, why do you want to kill him? Ji Wuxia interrupted. How about we go in and take a look? Ling Huchang replied, that's good. Brother Ji, Brother Old, Brother Zhu, and clan leader Huang, please accompany me into the temple. Everybody please pass this order to restrict your subordinates from acting wildly and tell them they must not be rude to any Shaolin monk. Also, they can't burn any grass or trees on this mountain. Branch Fairy said, then you can't even pull out any grass? Ling Huchang was feeling worried about Ying Ying, so he strode purposefully into the temple. Ji Wuxi and the other 3 people followed behind him. After entering through the gate, they walked on a stone path and went past the front courtyard and the front hall, and arrived at the great hero Precious Hall. In the hall, they saw the majestic likeness of Rulai Buddha. They saw the floor and the table were covered with a thin layer of dust. Zhu Qianchu said, could it be that all the monks in the temple have escaped? Ling Huchang chided, Brother Zhu, don't say this word, escape. The 5 people stood quietly and tried to listen for any sounds, but apart from the clamoring noise from the group outside the temple, there was no sound at all coming from the temple. The Shaolin monks must be hiding around. The Shaolin monks must be hiding around the place to ambush us, Ji Wuxi whispered. Ling Huchang thought, Abbot Feng Zheng and the great master Feng Sheng are all eminent monks. Why would they use deceit? But knowing that a lot of unorthodox sects came together to attack, the Shaolin monks may have wanted a battle of wits instead of strength. That's not unusual. He saw that the Shaolin temple was a huge place, but saw no sign of anyone. A sense of dread started to wash over him as he worried about what they might have done to Ying Ying. The 5 of them looked around and listened to all directions as they walked further in. After passing 2 large courtyards, they arrived at the back hall. Suddenly, Ling Huchang and Ji Wuxi stopped at the same time and made some hand signals. Old Man and the other 2 people immediately stopped. Ling Huchang pointed to a side room on the northwest side and quietly walked there. Old Man and the other 3 people followed him. They heard light groaning. They heard light groaning sounds. They heard light groaning sounds coming from the inside of the room. Ling Huchang stopped in front of the door and pulled his sword out. He then extended his hand to push the door open while leaning his body to one side to protect himself against projectiles from inside the room. As the door creaked open, they again heard the light groaning sound from the inside. Ling Huchang turned his head to look inside the room and was greatly surprised to see 2 nuns on the floor. He recognized the nun facing towards him as Ding Yi Shitai, with her face pale and her eyes closed. It looked as if she had died. His body shot forward like an arrow, going into the room. Zhu Qianchu called out, Chief, be careful, as he followed him in. Ling Huchang went around Ding Yi Shitai's body to have a look at the other person lying down. As expected, she was Hengshan School's leader, Ding Xian Shitai. Ling Huchang stooped down and called out, Shitai! Shitai! Ding Yi Shitai slowly opened her eyes. She was really sluggish at the beginning, but there was a flash of happiness in her eyes as she recognized him. Her mouth moved like she was trying to say something, but she couldn't get any sound out. Ling Huchang stooped even lower. It's Junior Ling Huchang. Ding Xian Chitai's mouth moved again and managed to whisper really lightly. Ling Huchang managed to hear her saying, You. He saw her injuries were really serious and didn't know how much longer she would live. Ding Xian Shitai uttered a few more words. You promised me. Ling Huchang hastily said, Yes, whatever Shitai orders, Ling Huchang will do it. Even until my body turns to dust, I will still accomplish it. Thinking of the 2 Shitai dying in the Shaolin Temple on his account, tears started to flow down his cheeks. Ding Xian Shitai whispered, You're certain that you can promise me? Ling Huchang replied, I promise. Ling Xianqi's glimmered. I think that means her eyes. Ling Xianqi's eyes glimmered with happiness. You promised to take charge of the Hangshan school family. After saying these few words, she was out of breath. Ling Hucheng was greatly surprised. But Junior is a male. I can't be your noble school's leader. But Shutai can be at ease. No matter what kind of difficulty or calamity your noble school is in, Junior will try my best to undertake the burden. Ling Xiang slowly shook her head. No, I'm passing you, Ling Hucheng. The Hangshan school's leadership. If you don't agree, I'll die with an unfulfilled wish. Zhu Qianchu and the other 3 people were standing behind Ling Hucheng. They all felt Ling Xianqi's last wish was too unthinkable. Ling Hucheng's heart was in great confusion and felt that this was a really difficult matter to decide on. But he saw that Ling Xianqi only had a short time to live. With blood welling up in his heart, he promised. All right, Junior agrees to Shutai's request. Ling Xianqiu smiled and whispered, Many thanks. Hangshan School's hundreds of disciples. From now on, they'll all bother young hero Ling Hu. Ling Hucheng was alarmed, indignant, and grieved. Shaolin Temple is so unreasonable. Why would they be so violent towards Shutai, Junior? Just then, Ling Xianqi's head lolled to one side, and her eyes closed. Greatly alarmed, Ling Hucheng quickly extended his hand to check on her breathing, but she had stopped. His heart was grieved. He turned around and touched Ding Yishutai's hand. Her cold hands indicated that she had been long dead. Indignation and sadness washed over him, and he found himself choked with tears. Oh. So they did. Some bell sounds for the 2 dead Shutais. Okay, so it looks like those 2 died, and now he has a school. Apparently, he owns a school of nuns. Old man said, Master Ling Hu, we must avenge the 2 Shutai. All those bald donkeys have run away from the temple. Let's burn this Shaolin temple to the ground. Ling Hucheng's heart was filled with grief and indignation. He slapped his thigh and said, All right, let's burn the Shaolin temple to the ground. Ji Wuxia hastily said, No. If Sacred Lady is still imprisoned in here, then she'll also be burnt to death. Ling Hucheng had said that absent-mindedly. He felt cold sweat breaking out from his back as he conceded. I was confused. If Brother Ji didn't remind me, I would have ruined this matter. What should we do now? Ji Wuxia replied, Shaolin Temple has many rooms. It'll be hard for the 5 of us to search all the places. Chief, please pass an order to call 200 brothers to come in and search the temple. Ling Hucheng said, Right, Brother Ji, please go out and get more people. Yes, Ji Wuxia replied and turned his body around to go out. Zhu Qianchu called out, Don't let those Peach Valley 6 weirdos come in. Ling Hucheng lifted the bodies of the 2 Shutai and put them on a bed. Kneeling down, he kowtowed a few times to them and silently prayed. Disciple will do my best to avenge both Shutai. You can rest easy in heaven about the Hangshan school family. He stood up and looked carefully at the injuries on the 2 bodies, but didn't see any cut or traces of blood on them. It was also inappropriate for him to lift their gowns to investigate further. He guessed that it was masters from the Shaolin Temple who must have used their palms' inner energy and caused fatal internal injuries. The sound of steps from 200 heroes was then heard entering the temple as they separately went to search the area. Suddenly, someone shouted from outside the gate. Ling Hu Chong's not letting us in, but we want to go in. What's he going to do? It was Peachtree Branch Fairy's voice. Ling Hu Chong scowled, pretending to not have heard it. Then he heard Trunk Fairy said, "We've come to the world's famous Shaolin Temple, but we're not allowed to go in and take a stroll in there? How can he treat us so unjustly?" Leaf Fairy said, "If we entered the Shaolin Temple and don't meet the world's famous Shaolin monks, then that'll be even more injustice." Branch Fairy said, "If we can't meet Shaolin Temple's monks, then we can't compare martial arts against the world's famous Shaolin school's martial art. That's even more injustice." Flower Fairy said, "The most famous ones are in Shaolin Temple, but we can't see a single monk here. This is really strange." Fruit Fairy said, "There's no monk. That's not strange. But the strange thing is there are 2 nuns." Root Fairy said, "There are 2 nuns. That's also not strange. What's strange is that the nuns are not only old, they're also dead." The 6 brothers were talking back and forth as they walked towards the back courtyard. Ling Hu Chong, together with Zhu Qianchu, Old Man, and Huang Bo Liu, walked away from the side room. Once they were out of the door, they saw the group that was searching around inside the Shaolin Temple. After a while, people started to come and continuously reported their findings. They reported that not only the monks were gone from the temple, but also the porters and cooks had also gone. One person reported that the Buddhist scriptures, records, and appliances had also been moved away. Not even a bowl was left behind. Another person reported that the firewood, rice, oil, and salt had all been emptied out. Even the vegetables in the garden had been pulled clean. Every time Ling Hu Chong heard a report, he was more and more disheartened. He thought, the Shaolin Temple's monks cleaned this place up so thoroughly, so much that they didn't even leave behind a single vegetable in the garden. They must have moved Ying Ying somewhere else too. The world is so big, where do I begin to look for her? Close to 2 hours later, the 200 people had finished searching the thousands of rooms in the Shaolin Temple. They had even searched underneath the Buddha statues and the back of the Shaolin's name board, but not even a single piece of paper was found. There were people who were pleased with themselves, saying, "Shaolin School is Wulin's #1 school," but when they heard us coming, they unexpectedly ran away. "This thing has never happened in more than 1,000 years. Another person said, "We're so powerful, no one in Wulin dares to look down upon us." But there was a person who said, "The Shaolin monks were definitely driven away from hearing our might, but what about the Sacred Lady? We came here to meet the Sacred Lady, not to drive away the monks." Everyone thought that this was reasonable. When some people heard this, they hanged their heads down as if someone had died. There were some who looked towards Ling Hu Chong, waiting to hear what he had to say. Ling Hu Chong said, This is beyond our expectations. Who would have expected that the Shaolin monks would leave their temple? I have no idea how to handle this situation. One person's thought is limited. If we have more than 2, then we would have more ideas. So please, give me your opinions." Huang Bo Liu said, "In my opinion, finding the Sacred Lady is difficult, while finding the Shaolin monks is easier. Shaolin Temple's monks numbered more than 1,000. They can't always hide forever. Once we found those Shaolin monks, we'll definitely get a scent of where the Sacred Lady is." Zhu Qianchu said, "Clan leader Huang is right. We'll just stay inside this temple. Those Shaolin school's disciples would definitely not be willing to part with their 1,000-years-old residence and allow us to live here. When they wanted to take back this temple from us, then we'll ask him about the Sacred Lady's whereabouts." A person said, "As about Sacred Lady whereabouts, why would they agree to tell us?" Old Man said, "This so-called asking is merely a polite way of saying it. We'll extort from them the answer. When we see any Shaolin monks, we'll capture them but not kill them. Then, after we've captured 8 to 10 of them, are we still afraid that they won't tell us? Another person said, if these monks still didn't want to tell us, then what do we do? Old Nan said, that's easy. We'll just ask Chief Blue to release some of her divine dragon, divine object on their bodies. Are we then still afraid of them not disclosing the information? Many people nodded their heads, agreeing with what he said. Everyone knew that this so-called Chief Blue's divine dragon, divine object, was Chief Blue Phoenix's 5 poisons of viper and poison worm. When these venomous pests were put on people's bodies, they would start gnawing on their flesh. The pain would be comparable to the worst punishment that existed in this world. Blue Phoenix smiled and said, Shaolin Temple's monks have undergone lots of practice for a long time. I'm not sure if my divine dragon, divine object would work on them. Ling Huchang suddenly thought, we don't need to deal them with excessive punishment. We just need to capture as many monks as we can. After capturing 100 of them, then we'll trade 100 for 1. That way we'll surely be able to get Ying Ying out. Suddenly, a person with a coarse voice said, we haven't eaten meat for half a day. I'm starving. There's also no monks in the temple. Otherwise, we'll capture one with thin and white skin, and steam him. That'll be very wonderful. The person who said this had a high stature. It was the tall white bear from the bear duo of the northern desert. Everyone knew that black bear and white bear liked to eat human flesh. Really. Although these few words of his could make other people vomit from hearing it, they had been on Mount Shaoxi for a long time now, and had not had anything to eat or drink. Everyone felt hungry and thirsty, and some people's stomachs were croaking from hunger. Oh, maybe that's the plan. Huang Bo Liu said, Shaolin School is using this... Wait, what was his... Shaolin School is using this plan of strengthen whatever, clear whatever. Zhu Qianchu said, strengthen the defenses and clear the field. Translator's note, this means to fortify the defense works and to leave nothing usable to the invading enemy. Huang Bo Liu said, right. They were hoping that we'd get hungry inside the temple, then obediently go down the mountain. How can there be such an easy thing in this world? Ling Huchang asked, What's clan leader Huang's opinion? Huang Bo Liu replied, we'll send a group of brothers to go down the mountain and find out where these Shaolin monks had gone to. We'll send another group to purchase foodstuffs. Everyone else will be staying in the temple to guard whatever, waiting for a rabbit in order to avoid these monks throwing whatever net. Huang Bo Liu loved to use proverbs when speaking, but he didn't remember them clearly, so the idioms he used would frequently be wrong. Ling Huchang said, that's a good idea. Clan leader Huang, please take the order and get 500 astute and capable brothers to go down the mountain and find out the whereabouts of the Shaolin monks. About this matter of purchasing foodstuffs, I asked clan leader Huang to handle this matter too. Huang Bo Liu complied with his order and turned around to go out. Blue Phoenix laughed. Hopefully clan leader Huang can handle this matter. Otherwise, White Bear and Black Bear would be very hungry and start to eat everything they see. Huang Bo Liu laughed. Old man will take care of this. But even if those bear duo of the northern deserts get really hungry till their belly is shrunken, they still wouldn't dare to even touch Chief Blue's fingers. Zhu Qianchu said, the temple's monks have all gone out. I'd like to ask friends here to do this one thing. Could you please have a look everywhere again, see if there's anything unusual. Maybe we'll be able to find some clues. The crowd boomed their replies and started to go take a look around. Ling Huchang sat on a kneeling mat in the great hero Precious Hall and was looking at the majestic likeness of the Rulai Buddha. The statue had an expression of pity and mercifulness. He thought, Abbot Fengzheng is an eminent monk. When he found out that they were coming here, he'd rather destroy the Shaolin School's reputation than to lead people to fight us. In the end, he has avoided a big bloodbath here. But why did they kill Ding Xian and Ding Yi Shitai? I'm guessing the one who killed the two Shitai must be a vicious monk from this temple, and the abbot may have had no idea about all of this. I must respect abbots' good intentions, and I must not look for Shaolin monks to give them trouble. I must think of another way to save Ying Ying. Suddenly, a burst of wind blew in through the door and hurled open the screen in front of him. The ash in the incense pot was blown all over the hall. Ling Huchong walked towards the hall's entrance and looked at the sky. The clouds were gray, and the north wind was blowing hard. He thought in his heart, it's going to rain tonight. Just as he thought of this, flakes of snow started to float down from the sky. The sky is cold, and the ground is going to be frozen. I don't know if Ying Ying has winter clothes with her. The Shaolin School has so many people that they can deploy efficiently, while we're only using bravery here to get Ying Ying out. This is impossible to do. With his hands behind his back, he walked back and forth in the passage in front of the hall. The snow was falling on his head, face, gown, and hands. It quickly melted as it touched him. His thought continued. Just before Ding Xian Shitai passed away, even though her injury was serious, she was still clear-headed and wasn't confused in the slightest bit. But why does she want me to become the Hangshan School's leader? The Hangshan School doesn't even have a single man in their school. I also heard that all their previous leaders were all nuns. How can I be the leader of the Hangshan School when I'm a man? When this gets out, people in the Jianghu will laugh until their jaws drop. Huh, I already agreed to her request. How can a gentleman eat his own words? What I do or where I go, even if other people laughed at me, what's that got to do with them? At this thought, his heroic spirit rose up. Suddenly, he heard light noises from half the mountain of people shouting. Not long after, the big group outside of the temple started to make a lot of noise. Ling Huchong was alarmed, and he quickly rushed towards the temple's main gate. He saw Huangbo Liu walking towards him with his face full of fresh blood. An arrow was stuck in his shoulder, and the cut-out shaft was trembling. He called out, Chief, enemy is guarding the road going down the mountain. We have thrown that net. Ling Huchong was startled. Are they Shaolin monks? Huangbo Liu said, They're not monks. They're just ordinary people. His granny, we haven't gone more than 3 li when we were forced back by their arrows. Around 10 brothers died, and there are around 70 to 80 people injured. That's the whole army annihilated. He then saw several hundred people rushing to retreat back to the temple. Many people in that group had been hit by arrows. The people in the main group were calling out like thunder as they prepared to die, charging down the mountain. Ling Huchong asked, What school is the enemy from? Did clan leader Huang manage to get a look? Huangbo Liu said, We didn't get near to the enemy. His granny, they're very good with their bows and arrows. We didn't get to see those bastards' faces clearly. They were shooting those arrows continuously. Usually it's make friends when you are far and attack when you're near. Then all the arrows would hit his target. Zhu Qianqiu said, It seems that Shaolin School deliberately left the temple to snare us. We're like a turtle captured in a jar. Old man said, What turtle captured in a jar? How can you grow the enemy's spirit and extinguish our own power? This is called to lure the enemy to penetrate deeply into their territory. Zhu Qianqiu said, All right, we'll say that it's luring the enemy to penetrate deeply into their territory. We're already here, so what else is there to say? These monks want us to die of starvation on top of this Mount Shaoshi. White Bear shouted, Who wants to charge down the mountain with me? to kill these bastards. This was followed by more than 1,000 people answering him. Ling Huchang shouted, "Wait! The opponents are shooting arrows. We must think of a way to deal with them to avoid futilely injuring ourselves." Ji Wuxia said, "There's nothing else in this Buddhist temple, but there are thousands of putuan here." What the hell's are putuans? Those are like shields or something? This reminded everyone as they said together, "Use those as shields. Those are just as good." Several hundred people quickly rushed to the temple and brought out many putuans with them. Ling Huchang called out, "Use these to block the arrows." Everyone rushed down the mountain. Ji Wuxia said, "Chief, where should we gather after we rush down? What are we going to do after that? How are we going to save the sacred lady? We have to arrange all these first." Ling Huchang said, "Right. You saw just before how I didn't speak up on that matter. How can I still be chief? I think after we got down the mountain, everyone should temporarily go back home first and ask around for the whereabouts of the sacred lady. We'll talk later to think of a way to save the sacred lady." Ji Wuxia said, "All right," and he quickly shouted Ling Huchang's order to the rest of the group. That flesh-eating monk, Black Bear, said, "Shaolin temples as bald donkeys are so hateful. Everyone, let's burn this ghost temple down, and then we'll rush down and stake our lives." He himself was a monk, but he scolded them as bald donkey, and didn't care about it. The crowd cheered this idea. Ling Huchang waved his hand and shouted, "Sacred Lady is still in their hands right now. No one must be rude to them. Sacred Lady might be disadvantaged by that." Everyone thought that what he said was right. "All right, we'll let them off then." Ling Huchang said, "Brother Ji, how do we charge down? Please assign us." Ji Wuxia saw Ling Huchang had no aptitude in commanding this group of heroes when dealing with the dangers, so he didn't hesitate in taking control of the situation. He said in a loud, clear voice, "Friends, please listen to Chief's order. Everyone will go down the mountain through 8 paths. East, south, west, and north are 4 of the paths. Southeast, southwest, northeast, and northwest are the other 4 paths. We'll just quickly rush out of the encirclement and don't worry about killing them." He then assigned the path that each clan and school would be taking. Around 500 to 600 or 700 to 800 people would be rushing each path. Google says putuan are like Zen cushions. Oh, okay. Oh, define putuan for karaoke. I'm sorry. I did just define it, right? It's like Zen cushions. I guess they're using those as shields. Thanks, Dee Dee. You saved me there from having to sing a song. What's up, Macy? Nice of you to join. Ling Huchang grasped his sword, but didn't take a putuan with him as he strode to go down the mountain. The crowd roared their battle cry and separately rushed down through the 8 paths. But on top of the mountain, there weren't 8 paths to actually go down from, so some people leaped as they went down. In the beginning, there were 8 paths they were taking, but later, they were just like bees swarming down the mountain. After Ling Huchang had gone for a few li, he heard many whirring sounds as a rain of arrows was released from the forest in front of him. He used the Dugu 9 swords as arrow-breaking stands to bat away the arrows raining down on him while he was still rushing down. Suddenly, he heard someone crying out behind him. It was Blue Phoenix falling down as her left leg and left shoulder was hit at the same time. Ling Huchang hastily turned around to support her and say, "I'll protect you." Blue Phoenix says, "Don't worry about me. You going down the mountain is most important." At this time, the air was still buzzing from the arrows being shot. Ling Huchang was still waving his hand around, blocking the arrows coming towards him, but he saw people but he saw that people kept falling on the ground one by one as they were struck. Cheater? No, can't. You told me the answer, so it's not my fault. It's your own fault. What's up, Pebbles? Thanks for becoming a what do you call it? A member. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Ji Wuxia called out, Chief, the enemy's arrows are too severe. Our brethrens can't rush down the mountain, and many have been injured or killed. Let's call everyone back, and we'll think of an idea. Ling Hucheng knew that they were about to be defeated. If they clashed with the enemies, then the situation would be hopeless. He immediately called out, Everyone, retreat to the Shaolin Temple! Everyone, retreat to the Shaolin Temple! Even though thousands of people were shouting and crying out as they fought, his shout was still audible everywhere because of his abundant internal energy. Ji Wushu, Zhu Qianqiu, and tens of other people shouted out, Chief's order! Everyone retreat to the Shaolin Temple! The crowd heard the order and started to retreat. In front of the temple, people were cursing, groaning, and calling out. The ground from east to west was covered with blood. Ji Wushu was giving out orders to 800 uninjured people to separate into 8 groups and guard the 8 paths. These thousands of people who had come to Shaolin Temple, half of them belonged to clans or sects, and they were obeying orders, but the other 2,000 people were just mobs, and after they had been defeated, they were in confusion. They were each doing their own things, and didn't know what to do. Yeah, the streams are archived. Thanks, Patrick. The streams are unlisted, but if you go into the description, there's a playlist to see like all the previous chapters. Ling Hucheng said, Everyone, quickly treat our uninjured. Wait. Everyone, quickly treat our injured brethren and give medicines to them. In his heart, he was thinking, It's a shame that the Hangshan School's disciples aren't here and we don't have their medicines. He continued thinking, If the Hangshan School's people are here, would they help me or would they side with the Orthodox schools? The 2 Shitai were killed. Of course they would help me. He heard the crowd was still clamoring incessantly, and he felt uneasy. If he was the only one who had been trapped on this mountaintop, then he would have rushed down the mountain a long time ago. He wouldn't care if he died or lived, but he was the leader of all these people, and he was responsible for these thousands of people's lives. As he thought of this, he didn't know what to do. He saw that it was sunset already. Suddenly, sounds of drums and people calling out were heard from the mountainside. Ling Hucheng drew his longsword out and rushed to the intersection of the road. The crowd of heroes also grasped their sabers, wanting to fight the enemy to the death. They heard the sounds of drums getting louder and louder, but the enemy didn't rush up. After a moment, the drums stopped, and the crowds of heroes said one after another. The drums have stopped. They're coming up now. If they rush up here, then we'll spill their bloods till it flows like water, and not spare a single one of them. His granny, these bastards want us to die up here from hunger and thirst. If those sons of a turtles aren't coming up here, then we'll rush down to them. If you want to rush down, then why are you still talking? Ji Wuxi whispered to Ling Hucheng, If we can't sleep tonight, and add to that, we would also be hungry for one day and one night. Then everyone would be powerless to fight. Ling Hucheng replied, Right. We'll select 200 to 300 people with high martial arts to open the way for us. At night, the enemy's arrows wouldn't be as accurate. We'll just disrupt the enemy, and we can all rush forth to go down. Ji Wuxi said, That's the plan then. At this moment, the sounds of drums from the mountainside rose again, followed by around 100 people with white cloth wrapped around their heads rushing up the mountain. The groups of heroes cried out and rushed forth to fight them. But these 100 people only attacked for a short while before they whistled and retreated back down the mountain. The crowd of heroes put their weapons down to rest. The drums sounded again, and another group of people with white head wrap went up the mountain to attack. After fighting for a short while, they again retreated back down the mountain. Even though the enemy was retreating, the drums kept beating, and another battle cry rose up, not letting them rest. Wuxia said, "Chief, the enemy is wearying our army and preventing us from taking a rest." Ling Huchang said, "Yes, Brother Ji, please take care of it." Wuxia quickly passed down the order that if the enemy came up again, then only those people on guard duty would fight, while the others would take a rest and not pay attention to them. Zhu Qianchu said, "Let's talk now and pick 300 good fighters. We then wait till the middle of the night when the enemy attacks, and these 300 people would rush down. Once they started fighting with the enemy, these bastards wouldn't be able to shoot their arrows, and everyone will rush down the mountain. Only by using this tactic of creating chaos would we be able to escape from this." Ling Huchang said, "Fabulous. Brother Zhu, please pick the people. Order them to wait for some confusion first before they charge down." After about an hour, Zhu Qianchu had finished picking the 300 first-class fighters to furiously rush down the mountain. Even if the enemy had 1,000 people lined up to block them, they might not necessarily be able to stop these 300 fierce tigers. Ling Huchang's vigor rose, and he walked with Zhu Qianchu towards the mountain edge on the west side. He saw the 300 people lined up there. Ling Huchang said, "Everyone, please sit down and rest. Wait until the sky is completely dark before going down and fight to the death." Those people boomed their replies. At this time, the snow had been falling for some time, and a thin layer of snow had accumulated on top of the ground, and the people's heads and gowns. There were some water jars in the temple, but they were all empty. Even the water well had dried up. Everyone took a handful of snow and started to put it in their mouths to quench their thirst. The sky was getting darker and darker, until they could only vaguely look at other people's faces. Zhu Qianchu said, "Unfortunately, tonight is snowing. Otherwise, tonight, on the 15th, the moon would be very bright." Suddenly, the quiet enveloped the whole area. Inside and outside the Shaolin Temple were thousands of heroes, where thousands of heroes were gathered, and also from the mountainside to the foot of the Mount Shaoxi, where around 2,000 to 3,000 people were. That's a weird sentence. Everyone had unexpectedly become quiet at the same time. The people who were about to say something also stayed silent, as the quiet atmosphere scared them. Only the light sound of snowflakes falling on the tree leaves and grass was heard. Ling Huchang suddenly thought, "I wonder what little Martial sister is doing at this time." But dude, this is no time to think about your little Martial sister. The sound of woo, woo, woo was heard throughout the mountainside, followed by a loud cry from every direction. This time, the enemy appeared to have taken advantage of the darkness to launch their attack with full power, unlike before when they were just bluffing. Ling Huchang waved his long sword and lightly said, "Charge!" Ling Huchang, along with Ji Wuxia, Zhu Qianchu, Tian Bo Guang, bear duo of the Northern Desert. Wait, Tian Bo Guang is also there? We didn't hear about him, right? What the heck? I didn't know he was also here. And those 300 chosen warriors rushed down towards the northwest path. The 300 people rushed down the path as nothing was blocking them. After going for a li, Zhu Qianchu took out a small flare, lit it up, and shot it up into the air. It exploded with fireworks. This was the signal for the heroes on top of the mountain to rush out of the temple. Ling Hucheng was rushing down the mountain when he felt his feet were hurting. It felt like he was trampling on nails. He felt uneasy about it and hastily leaped to the top of a tree. Zhu Qianchu and the rest of the people behind him started to cry out, "Ayo, not good. There's some traps on the ground." Everyone felt their feet were being pricked by nails, and some of their feet were even stabbed all the way through. The pain was unbearable. Dozens of their people were still rushing down, ignoring the pain, when suddenly they fell into a big pit. More than 10 spears were quickly thrust out, stabbing those people in the pit. Cries of pain were coming out, and they were heard throughout the mountain. "Chief, quickly, give out the order to retreat, back up the mountain," Ji Wuxia screamed. Ling Hucheng saw the situation, and it was obvious that the Orthodox schools had set up a trap at the bottom of the mountain. If they kept rushing down, the whole army would be annihilated. He quickly shouted, "Everyone, go back to the Shaolin Temple! Everyone, go back to the Shaolin Temple!" He leaped to the top of another tree besides the pit and poked his longsword down, stabbing 3 spearmen. He then jumped down to the ground and landed beside one of the spearmen with the thought that there wouldn't be any nails where these spearmen were standing on. All of a sudden, he had stabbed 7 to 8 people already. The remaining spearmen cried out and retreated. The 40 or more people who had fallen down the pit jumped out one by one, but more than 10 people were killed inside that pit. All they could see was the darkness of the night as they walked back. Even though the snow provided some light, they couldn't see where the traps might be. They limped back up the mountains with their heads hanging down. Fortunately, the enemy didn't take this opportunity to chase them. Oh, Tianbo Guang was mentioned in the previous chapter? Okay, I must have missed that. Alright guys, 5-minute break. Okay, I need to take a piss. Let me start up my iTunes. Play some music. Play some old-timey Chinese music. What should I? No, I'm back. They probably didn't give chase because spikes were poisoned. Maybe. You think the spikes were poisoned? Could be. I don't think we know that at the moment, right? And Ling Hucheng got stabbed too by the spikes, so I hope it's not poisoned. So they're in a predicament, aren't they? They're in quite the predicament. They're trapped up the mountain, and they can't run back down because there are traps on the foot of the mountain. Traps at the foot of the mountain. So it looks like the plan is to starve these people, right? Because there's no food and water up there. What's up, Empress Mermaid? Thanks for joining. Hey. Have fun peeing? I did have a lot of fun. Quite a lot of fun. Thank you very much. Alright. The group of heroes went back into the temple. Under the candle. Oh, wait. I keep forgetting to do sound effects. Okay, just imagine I did the sound effect when they were fighting back, like a couple of paragraphs ago. There you go. That's exactly what it sounded like. The group of heroes went back into the temple. Under the candle light, they checked their injuries and found that 9 out of 10 people's feet were pierced by the nails. Holy shit, 90%. Everyone was swearing at the enemy. Apparently, when the enemy was beating those drums several times, they were actually covering the sound of them, digging the pit, and scattering the nails. These nails were around a foot long, holy moly, and were very sharp. 7 part of it was buried underneath the ground, with 3 part of it sticking out. It seemed that nails were scattered throughout the mountain. There may even be more than 100,000 of these nails buried on the ground. Send the cannibals down first? Yeah. Good idea, Nikki. Good idea. Oh, what if they cut a tree and rolled it down the mountain to spring the traps? But there are nails, so I don't think the rolling a tree would do anything to the nails. So, good plan though. Nice try. Of course, they had prepared these nails beforehand. Otherwise, where would the enemy accumulate so many? Even the more experienced heroes were still surprised and amazed when they thought of this. Ji Wuxi pulled Ling Hucheng to a side and quietly talked to him. Master Ling Hu, we can't retreat anymore. We've been thinking day and night, hoping to save the sacred lady. We're forced to ask the master to undertake this big matter alone. Ling Hucheng was greatly surprised. What's the meaning of this? We know that Master is willing to help people and would not just abandon us and go by yourself. But in the future, who would take revenge for this big enmity we have? Sacred Lady is also still being imprisoned. Who would rescue her to see the sky again? Ling Hucheng laughed. So Brother Ji wants me to escape this mountain by myself? Don't think about this anymore. If we're going to die, then we're just going to die. Why do we need to think so much for? In this world, who doesn't die? We'll just die together. Sacred Lady is being imprisoned, but in the future, she'll also die. Even though the Orthodox schools are victorious today, years from now, wouldn't they also die one by one? This matter of winning or losing only determines whether you die sooner or later. Seeing how Ling Hucheng ignored his advice, Ji Wuxi saw that it was no use to persuade him any further. But if Ling Hucheng didn't take advantage of the darkness to escape, then it would be impossible to run away. When daytime came again, the enemy would start to attack them, and it would not be possible to flee. At this thought, he let out a long sigh. Suddenly, they heard a few people laughing. They were getting more joyous as they laughed. The group of heroes had had a major defeat and was now bunched together inside the temple. Their lives would probably only last until morning. Unexpectedly, there were still some people who could laugh so happily at this time. When Ling Hucheng and Ji Wuxi heard, they both knew that it was the Peach Valley 6 fairies. They both thought, in this world, only these 6 weirdos can still laugh like this when facing their deaths. They heard one of the Peach Valley 6 fairies say, "In this world, there are actually these kinds of fools, stepping their feet nicely on those nails. Ha 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 ha! This is really funny." Another one said, "You're all a bunch of idiots. You should have tested the ground with your feet first. If it hurts, of course there's steel nails. Ha ha ha! Is it comfortable with these iron nails piercing through your feet?" Another one laughed. "You've already tasted how it feels to have a steel nail through your feet. Why don't you use a steel hammer to hammer down those nails through your feet? Ha ha ha!" The 6 brothers were laughing until they were out of breath, thinking that this was the funniest thing in the world. But no one else thought that this was funny. The people who had their feet pierced by these steel nails were still crying out in pain. Yet, there were some inconsiderate people ridiculing and shouting abuses at them, but to scold back at the Peach Valley 6 fairies was a very difficult thing to do. They would debate every single word that came out of your mouth. If you scolded them with "Zhi Niang Zhe," straight mother thief, they would ask what "Zhi Niang" and why not "Wang Niang." If you scolded them "Wang," blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're gonna skip this because this is all Chinese stuff. In a short time, the hall became really noisy, with people shouting. Some people even looked for weapons to fight them. Ling Hucheng saw the situation was getting out of hand. He suddenly called out, "You, what's this? Fascinating, fascinating. This is very odd." When the Peach Valley 6 fairies heard him, they immediately went over to him and asked, "What's so interesting?" "I saw 6 rats biting a cat passing by here," Ling Hucheng answered. The 6 fairies were amused, and they all asked, "I've never seen a mouse biting a cat before. Where did they go?" Ling Hucheng pointed somewhere and said, "They went there." Root Fairy pulled his hand. Go, everyone, let's take a look." The group of heroes knew that Ling Hucheng was actually referring to the Peach Valley 6 fairies as the 6 mice. Unexpectedly, the fairies actually believed that there were actually 6 mice and felt really happy. The 6 fairies crowded Ling Hucheng, pushing him to go towards the path at the back of the hall. Ling Hucheng laughed. "You, is that it?" I didn't see," Fruit Fairy said. Ling Hucheng was intentionally trying to lead them far away from the rest of the people to prevent them from fighting, so he was just pointing anywhere and they walked farther and farther away from the group. You told people at work about the tanuki? Oh, nice. Good job. How did they like it? Did they like the tanuki? Trunk Fairy pushed open a door on the side of the hall. Inside was jet black, and they couldn't see anything. Ling Hucheng laughed. "Hey yo, 6 mice are carrying a big cat and entering a cave." Root Fairy said, "Don't fool us." He lighted a fire stick, but there was nothing inside the room besides a statue of Bodhisattva in a sitting position facing the wall. Root Fairy went up to the offering table to light up the oil lamp. He said, "Where's the cave? Let's drive these mice out." He took the oil lamp from the table to inspect the room, but there was no cave at all. Branch Fairy said, "I'm afraid it might be behind the Bodhisattva." "Behind the Bodhisattva is us 7 people. Are we the mice?" Trunk Fairy said, "Bodhisattva is facing the wall, so its back is its front," Branch Fairy reasoned. "You know, you said it wrong, but you don't want to admit it. How can the back be the front?" Peach admonished Trunk Fairy. "The back is fine, the front is also fine. Let's pull it open and have a look," Flower Fairy said. Leaf Fairy and Fruit Fairy replied together, "Yes." The 3 of them went forward to pull the statue open. Ling Hucheng called out, "Don't do that. This is Ancestor Da Mo." He knew that Ancestor Da Mo was the Shaolin Temple's Grand Master. The Shaolin Temple was the leader in the study of martial arts because Ancestor Da Mo passed his martial arts down. Their martial arts had been around for more than 1,000 years without declining. Sometime in the past, Da Mo sat facing the wall for 9 years until he finally gained enlightenment. That was the reason why the statue of Da Mo in the temple was also facing the wall. Oh, is that how you do it? You just sit watching the wall for 9 years and then you gain enlightenment? That was the reason why the statue of Da Mo in the temple was also facing the wall. Ancestor Da Mo was the ancestor of the Zen Buddhism in the Central Plain, and he was held in reverence in both the Wulin world and in Buddhism. So far, the crowd of heroes had been following his order and didn't destroy any object in the temple. He didn't want them now to insult the statue of Da Mo. But Flower Fairy and his 2 brothers' playfulness were out already, and they didn't pay any attention to Ling Hucheng's shout. The 3 people used their strength, which exceeded 1,000 kadi, to turn the statue of Da Mo around. Suddenly, the 7 people shouted in surprise as they saw an iron panel slowly rose up and exposed a big hole. The hardened rust on the hinges of the iron panel buckled open under the pressure of the Flower Fairy and the other 2 fairies' pull. "There's really a cave!" Branch Fairy exclaimed. "Let's go have a look at those 6 mice carrying a cat," Root Fairy said. He lowered his head and entered the hole. They all entered the hole one by one, with Trunk Fairy entering last. Inside, the hole was enormous, and when the 6 people entered, They were only able to hear their own footsteps. They only spent a short time in there, admiring the hole before coming out. They're using the word hole an awful lot. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable. Is that the same Damo on the painting that... Oh. You just deleted your message right as I was reading it, Didi. What the heck? Alright, where were we? Branch Fairy called out, "It's so dark and deep inside that we can't see the bottom." Leaf Fairy said, "Since it's so dark, how do you know it's deep for certain? Maybe after a few more steps, we'll arrive at the bottom." Branch Fairy said, "If you already knew that you'll reach the bottom after a few more steps, why do you need to keep walking to find out if the bottom is there?" Leaf Fairy said, "I said maybe, not for certain. Maybe and for certain are different." Branch Fairy said, "You already know that it's maybe. Why do you still speak so much then?" Root Fairy said, "What are you quarreling about? Quickly, get the fire sticks and go inside and have a look." Fruit Fairy said, "Oh, why only 2 fire sticks? Why can't we light 3 instead?" Flower Fairy said, "If you light 3 sticks, why don't you light 4 then?" These 6 people kept on talking incessantly, but their hands were moving quickly. They broke the table's legs and lighted up 4 fire sticks. After fighting over the fire sticks for a while, they entered the hole. Ling Hucheng considered, "This must be a secret path of the Shaolin Temple. That day when I was trapped in the Plum Manor, I also went through a long path. It seems that Ying Ying is being imprisoned here." At this thought, his heart started to thump wildly, and he quickly entered the hole. He quickened his steps to catch up to the Peach Valley 6 fairies. The path was wide, and it was completely different from the narrow and damp path in Plum Manor, but it was very moldy in the tunnel, which made breathing uncomfortable. Fruit Fairy said, "We still haven't seen those 6 mice. I'm afraid they didn't come through this hole. Let's turn back and look in another area." Trunk Fairy said, "Turn back when we reach the end. We still have time." The 6 people continued to walk forward again, when suddenly a meditation stick dropped out of nowhere, startling all of them. Flower Fairy was walking in front, and he hastily jumped back, bumping into Fruit Fairy's chest. They saw a monk holding a meditation stick, striking from the right wall. Flower Fairy was angry, and he shouted, "Here's Granny! Bald donkey! They're hiding here to plot against Grandpa!" He extended his hand towards the wall to grab him, but another meditation stick thrust out from the left wall. Flower Fairy could not step back anymore to avoid this stick, so he leapt forward. His left foot just touched the ground when another stick flew out from the right wall. At this time, Ling Hucheng had seen everything clearly. There was no enemy using those meditation sticks, but a couple of iron statues. These equipments were really wonderful. As soon as someone stepped on the ground, these statues were covering. As soon as someone stepped on the ground, these statues were covering. They would not only strike out, but every strike was wonderfully and severely done. Flower Fairy took out a short iron stick and blocked the strike, but it was shaken violently as it flew out of his hand. Flower Fairy cried out and rolled around on the ground, but another iron meditation stick struck down towards his head. Root Fairy and Branch Fairy took out their short iron sticks and rushed forward to save their brother. They raised both sticks, blocking the incoming stick. But as the first one was blocked, the second one struck. Trunk Fairy, Leaf Fairy, and Fruit Fairy rushed forward, blocking this second strike. They were using 5 sticks to block the incessant strikes of the 2 meditation sticks from the wall. Even though the iron monks using these meditation sticks were not alive, they were crafted very smartly, and it was as if real Shaolin monks were executing these skills, or some eminent monks were directing the statues. Each strike done by these iron monks was very severe and pointed at a dangerous spot. The meditation stick, along with the iron monk's arm, was made of fine steel, which altogether weighed close to 100 catty. This was further added to the force generated from the moving arm, which made the strike to be very powerful and similar to that of a master. Even though the Peach Valley Six Fairies' martial arts were powerful, the short iron sticks they were using were too short, which made it hard for them to block. The six brothers were calling out in pain. They wanted to withdraw, but the way back was completely blocked. However, for every steps they took going forward, more iron monks joined the fight. Ling Hucheng saw that the situation was dangerous, and he also saw that although these iron monks' movements were refined, each movement had enormous flaws in it. He immediately drew his longsword out and pierced it towards an iron monk's two wrists. Bursts of sparks flew out as the longsword bounced back after colliding with the acupoints in the iron monk's wrists. At this moment, he heard Root Fairy shouting ferociously as he was hit by the meditation stick and fell on the ground. Ling Hucheng was frightened seeing this, and his mind was in confusion. He saw the meditation sticks move again, and without thinking any further, he thrust his sword out. Chung, chung! He again hit two strategic points on the iron monk's body. But even though these two thrusts were perfect and wonderful, they only managed to scrape away the rust on the iron monk's chest and lower abdomen. Wait, these are statues, right? He doesn't really need to strike them on their acupoints. Like, they don't really have any acupoints, right? He heard the wind whistle on the top of his head as a meditation stick was smashing down on him. Ling Hucheng was greatly alarmed and quickly avoided the strike. But another meditation stick was striking out from the left side of his body. Suddenly, everything turned dark and he couldn't see anymore. It was because the 4 fire sticks that the Peach Valley 6 fairies were carrying were thrown to the ground as they started to fight the iron monks. These fire sticks were made from the legs of a table. They were able to burn easily when they were being carried by hands, but when dropped on the ground, they got extinguished in a short time. When Ling Hucheng first rushed forward, 3 of the fire sticks were already extinguished. Right when he was avoiding that strike, the 4th fire stick was extinguished. He was helpless, as he couldn't see anything in that hole. He felt pain shooting up on his left shoulder and dropped down onto the ground. He heard the Peach Valley 6 fairies calling out, one after another. Ayo, my mommy, as they were also hit and dropped to the ground. Ling Hucheng was staying down, and he heard behind him the hoo-hoo sound of the sticks sweeping over. He was terrified, feeling like he was in a nightmare, and was completely powerless. But not long after, the sound of the meditation sticks splitting the air was getting lighter and lighter, until finally he heard a g-g-g-g sound. The sticks had finally stopped, and the iron monks returned to their original positions. Suddenly, the area around him was bright, and he heard a person call out, Master Ling Hu, are you here? Ling Hucheng was happy to hear his voice and quickly called out, I'm here. He didn't dare to move and lay still on the ground. He heard the footsteps of a few people entering the hole and approaching him. He heard Ji Wuxia uttered in amazement, Don't come over. Mechanism is really fierce. Ling Hucheng warned them. Ji Wuxia was worried when Ling Hucheng had not come back yet after a long time, so he went out with more than 10 men to search for him. In the Damo room, they found the entrance to the hole. They were astonished to see Ling Hucheng and the Peach Valley 6 fairies lying on the ground with blood all over them. Master Ling Hu, what happened? Zhu Qianqiu called out. Stay there, don't move. One move and you'll trigger the mechanism, Ling Hucheng said. Yes. How about if I use a soft whip to drag all of you out? Zhu Qianqiu asked. That's the best way, Ling Hucheng answered. Zhu Qianchu flung his soft whip out and coiled it around Branch Fairy's left leg. He dragged Branch Fairy out of there. Branch Fairy was the closest one to him, so Zhu Qianchu dragged him out first. He then flung his whip and wrapped it around Ling Hucheng's right leg. Sorry for the offense. He dragged him out. Using this method, he dragged all of them out, one by one, without triggering the mechanism. Ling Hucheng falteringly stood up and hastily went to look at the Peach Valley 6 fairies. The 6 people's shoulders, heads, and backs were hit by the meditation sticks. Luckily, they had thick skins and flesh along with their deep internal energies to resist the hits, so they only received flesh wounds. Root Fairy was already bragging. These iron monks are good, but the Peach Valley 6 fairies broke them already. Flower Fairy felt that it was inappropriate to claim this achievement for themselves, so he only said, Flower Fairy felt that it was inappropriate to claim this achievement for themselves only, so he said, Master Ling Hu also worked hard, but he didn't work as hard as us 6 brothers. Ling Hucheng endured the pain on his shoulder and head while laughing. Of course, who can work harder than the Peach Valley 6 fairies? Master Ling Hu, what's this all about? Zhu Qianchu inquired. Ling Hucheng told him what he thought. It's very likely that Sacred Lady is being held in here. Let's think of a plan to break those iron monks. Zhu Qianchu glared at the 6 fairies. So the iron monks aren't broken yet? Trunk Fairy gave an excuse. What's so hard to break those iron monks? We just didn't feel like breaking them before. Yeah, wherever a Peach Valley 6 fairies go, there's nothing we can't destroy, and there's no enemy that we can't handle, Fruit Fairy bragged. We don't know how good these iron monks are. Can the Peach Valley 6 fairies rush in again to activate those machines? And let us see how good they are, Ji Wuxia implored. The 6 fairies had suffered under these machines before. How could they agree to this request to go in there and experience those meditation sticks again? Everyone, we've all seen a cat catching a mouse, but has anyone seen a mouse catching a rat? Trunk Fairy tried to change the topic. We 7 people saw it just then, and it has really widened our eyes since we've never seen it before, Leaf Fairy told everyone. These 6 brothers had a really unique skill. When they met with a difficult problem that they had no answer to, then they would start talking about anything and change the topic. Someone, please go and get some big rocks here. Those ones that weighed around 1 to 200 caddies, Ling Hucheng ordered. Hey, what's with the cherry blossom spamming? You're making it hard for me to read the other messages. Yeah, the 6 fairies seems like they got beaten by iron statues. And they seem very embarrassed by it. 3 people immediately went out and brought 3 big rocks in. These rocks were the fake rock mountains from the... Wait, the fake rock mountains? What does that mean? Oh, it's probably like a mountain of rocks. Like a small mountain of rocks. These rocks were the fake rock mountains from the Shaolin Temple's courtyard. Ling Hucheng carried 1 rock, gathered his chi, and bowled the rock forward. The rock rumbled forward, triggering the mechanism, and one by one the iron monks emerged from the walls. They were only able to see the shadows of the sticks moving as the iron monks started to strike downwards continuously. After a long time, the iron monks went back into the walls one after another. Everyone had now seen the dizzying speed at which those sticks were striking down, and they were all at a loss for words. Ji Wuxia suggested his opinion. Master, these iron monks have some kind of trigger. The trigger applied a lot of power to turn an iron chain somewhere, to move those iron men. We can roll those big rocks a few more times until the power of the trigger is exhausted. Then those iron monks won't be able to move anymore. Ling Hucheng wanted to get Ying Ying out of danger as soon as possible. I saw that those iron monks aren't slow at all when deploying those sticks, and I don't know how many times they hit each time. If we try 7 or 8 more rocks to exhaust the trigger, then it'll be dawn already. Do any brothers have a treasured saber or a treasured sword that I can borrow? A person immediately stepped forward and drew his saber out. Chief, this saber is really sharp. Ling Hucheng saw this person had a high nose, deep eyes, and a yellow beard on his chin. It seemed that he was a person from the west region. As he took that saber, he felt an unusually abundant cold air emanating from it. Many thanks. I'm going to use this treasured saber to scrape those iron men. Please don't blame me if it's damaged. That person laughed. For Sacred Lady, we wouldn't regret to sacrifice our lives. The saber is only an object. Don't worry about it. Ling Hucheng nodded and strode forward purposefully. Peach Valley 6 fairies called out at the same time. Be careful! Ling Hucheng took another 2 large strides when the iron monk was triggered and a meditation stick was striking downwards towards his head. This was the 3rd time he saw this move, so he didn't need to think as he wielded his saber, slashing towards the right wrist of the iron monk. The wrist was cut easily, and the iron hand, along with the meditation stick, dropped to the ground. All right. Good job. Good saber, Ling Hucheng praised. In the beginning, he was afraid that this saber might not be sharp enough to cut the iron monk's wrist. But seeing how this saber cut iron like it was mud, his spirit was roused greatly. Shua, shua! As he cut 2 more of the monk's wrists. He was using the saber like it was a sword, and used the moves from the Dugu 9 swords. The iron monks kept on coming out of the walls to attack, but their wrists had already been cut, and their meditation sticks had already fallen on the ground. Even though their 2 arms were intact, and they were still moving them around, no more meditation sticks were on their hands, which made them harmless. Ling Hucheng kept on going forward, and the moves the monks used were wonderful. He secretly admired them, but they were only dead objects after all. So, as they used their moves, there were many flaws on them. Even after all their wrists were cut off, the trigger was still working continuously, but everything had become a waste now. The group lifted the fire sticks high above their heads to follow him and to light the way. After cutting more than 100 iron wrists, there was no more iron monks coming out of the wall. Someone counted, and there were actually 108 iron monks. Holy moly. The crowd was excited and started to cheer loudly. Ling Hucheng wanted to urgently meet Ying Ying, so he took a fire stick and rushed forward. He was being careful as he passed along in case he touches some kind of trigger. The tunnel continuously slanted downwards. After going for more than 3 li, the tunnel had gone past several natural caves, and they didn't meet any kind of trigger. Suddenly, they saw a pale light coming from the front. Ling Hucheng rushed forward, and as he stepped outside, he felt that the ground was soft. He had unexpectedly stepped on a layer of snow. At the same time, a wave of cold air blew on his chest. He was unexpectedly at an empty place. "108. That's the number of cards in an Uno deck. How in the world did you know that? How do you remember that?" He looked at all the directions and saw the dark sky and the snowflakes falling down. So it looks like they found a way out. Maybe, a little bit, maybe. He also heard the sound of water from a creek nearby. Suddenly, he felt disappointed as the tunnel wasn't going to where Ying Ying was being imprisoned. He heard Ji Wuxia behind him say, "Everyone, be quiet. Don't make any noise. It's very likely that we're at the bottom of Mount Shaoshi." "So we've escaped from danger?" Ling Hucheng asked. "Master, in the depths of winter, the stream on the mountaintop would have no running water. It seemed that we've passed through the tunnel. and arrived at the foot of the mountain. Yes, somehow we've stumbled onto Shaolin Temple's secret tunnel, Zhu Qianchu said. Ling Hucheng was surprised and happy at the same time. He gave the treasured saber back to that hero from the west region and said, "Then quickly pass the word back to the main group and ask them to use the tunnel to get out." Ji Wuxia ordered tens of brothers to find out their exact location at the foot of the mountain and guard the tunnel's exit in case the enemy attacks before all the brothers had gone out. If the tunnel's exit was blocked before all the brothers were out, then they would all be trapped inside. Not long after, the people finding out their exact location returned to confirm that they were at the bottom of Mount Shaoshi, and they were also at the back of the mountain. If they raised their heads, they would be able to see the cloister at the top of the mountain. The group of heroes had still not escaped from danger at this moment, so no one dared to speak loudly. The number of warriors coming out of the tunnel gradually increased. They were also carrying the injured and the dead out with them. Even though the group of heroes had escaped with their lives, they didn't cheer, but just discussed it quietly, and were all feeling happy. The black bear from the bear duo of the northern desert said, "Chief, those bastards still thought that we're in the temple. It would be good to attack their butt and cut off their tail. That way we can vent our anger." Trunk Fairy butted in. "Bastards have tails?" "We came to the Shaolin Temple to meet with the Sacred Lady, but we didn't get to meet her, so we must continue to look for her. There's no need for more killings," Ling Hucheng said. White Bear said, "No matter what, I have to grab some of those bastards. If not, then they've bullied us too much." "Please, pass this order down. Everyone go separately, and if you meet anyone from the Orthodox school, it's best if you don't fight with them. If anyone heard of any news of the Sacred Lady, then please spread it around. As long as I, Ling Hucheng, am still alive, no matter what kind of difficulty or danger I have to go through, I will definitely get the Sacred Lady out. Are there any more brothers still inside the temple?" Ling Hucheng announced. Ji Wuxia walked to the tunnel's exit and called out a few times. After waiting for some time, he called out a few more, but there was no response from inside the tunnel. He reported, They're all out already." Really? That's how you check? I don't know. I feel like there may be still some people stuck inside the cave. What if there's a guy in the temple and or a group, and they didn't know about it? They're like, wait, where is everybody? Where did everybody go? What the hell? Ling Hucheng's childish heart was roused. "Everyone, let's call out 3 times and give those Orthodox schools' people a fright." Zhu Qianchu laughed. "Wonderful. Everyone, follow Chief and call out loudly." Ling Hucheng used his inner energy to call out. "Everyone call out after me. 1, 2, 3. Way! We've gone down the mountain already. Way! We've gone down the mountain already. Ready, ready, ready." The thousands of people called out. Ling Hucheng continued, "Enjoy the snow on the mountaintop. Enjoy the snow on the mountaintop, top, top, top." The group of heroes called out. This is like a protest. Ling Hucheng called out again, "The green mountains never change, and the river will always flow far, till we meet again. The green mountains never change, and the river will always flow far, till we meet again, again." The group of heroes called out loudly. Ling Hucheng laughed. "Let's go." Suddenly, some people called out, You son of a turtle bastards, go to your granny. You tons of a turtle bastards, go to your granny, 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 granny." The group of heroes followed. These vulgar words were also repeated after by the crowd, with their voices shaking the valley. Ling Hucheng called out, All right, no need to call out anymore, let's go." The group of heroes was still excited, and they all echoed him. All right, no need to call out anymore, let's go, 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 go." Okay, These people are like kids. After they had finished calling out, they saw that the mountaintop stayed calm and still. The sky was gradually becoming brighter one by one. They started to leave. Ling Hucheng thought, right now the first big matter I have to do is to find out Ying Ying's whereabouts. Next, I have to find out who killed Ding Xian and Ding Yu Shitai. Where should I go to accomplish these two matters? A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Shaolin monks and the Orthodox schools' people must know by now that we've gone down the mountain and escaped their trap. To do these two matters, I have to go back to Shaolin. He thought further. The less people going back to the Shaolin temple, the better. I can't let Ji Wuxi and the rest of them follow me back. He went to Ji Wuxi, Old Man, Zhu Qianchu, Blue Phoenix, Huang Boliu, and the rest of them to say, everyone worked hard. We'll celebrate after we've met the sacred lady. Master, where are you going? Ji Wuxi asked. Please forgive, little brother. I can't say where I'm going for now. I'll let you know everything later, Ling Hucheng said. They all didn't dare to ask anymore, and one by one said their goodbyes to him. Done! How was that chapter, you guys? Did you like it? Holy moly. Oh, you like the echo effect? Yep. Alright, so, yep, they were stuck in a trap up the temple. They couldn't get down, but I guess they just pulled a statue of the Buddha aside and there was an exit. Alright, I guess so. But it looks like he's going back. He's gonna go back to talk to the abbot, I guess. Yeah, and see what happened. Yeah, why did those two Shitais from the Hangshan school die? Right, we don't know that. So that's a mystery. And now he's the master of the Hangshan school now. He's a leader of a big sword school now, a major school. No karaoke tonight because no one asked me to define like words that I didn't know, so I guess not. Yeah. Yeah. Did we play the bell for the two? Yeah, we did. We did. Yeah, that sucked. Like that poor school, that poor Hangshan school. Like all their three leaders just died, just like that. Not cool because they were good people too. Like they weren't greedy or anything like some of the other leaders. All right, well, time for some wine. Then we'll end this. All right. All right, a toast to the three Shitais who died. A toast to the master nuns. Cheers. That's true. He's the leader of a female sect. He's the leader of an all-female sect. Oh my god. He has a giant harem, doesn't he? This is turning into a harem anime. No karaoke, just booze. What is it? I'm not a wine guy, so just read it, I guess. Here you go. This is the Zinfandel. Yeah. Rest in peace. Alright guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you liked that. And I will see you next week. We'll do this every week. We're about where are we? We're about We're almost at book 4. We're halfway through book 3. There are 4 books. We're halfway through book 3. So we're getting close. We're getting close. We're getting towards like a lot of the action. Stuff stuff is gonna keep happening. Like major things. Alright guys, thanks for coming. I'll see you next week. I love you.